Chapter 1. From Hollywood Hills to the desert, inside the mansion moves. There was a time when Mark Wahlberg's Beverly Park estate in Los Angeles was more than just a house. It was a monument. 30,000 square feet of precision, luxury, and permanence, perched above the city like a fortress. It had everything: a full-sized basketball court, a 5-hole golf course, a wine cellar that could rival a boutique vineyard. It was designed to impress, to host, to shine in aerial shots and glossy spreads. It was the kind of place people dream of when they think success. But in 2025, Wahlberg walked away from it, not with regret or second thoughts, but with the quiet confidence of a man who's decided to turn the page. The move didn't make headlines the way you might expect. There was no dramatic exit or public statement, just a listing, a deal, and a shift. The house sold for $68 million, and Wahlberg didn't blink, because the move wasn't about money. It was about meaning, about recalibrating, about building a life, not just a legacy. Los Angeles had been good to him, great, even, but it had become heavy. The logistics, the spotlight, the constant thrum of an industry that never stops moving. Wahlberg was done living at the center of that noise. He wasn't running away from Hollywood, he was walking towards something else entirely. That something else was Las Vegas, or more specifically, Summerlin, Nevada, nestled in the clean, sun-baked silence just beyond the Vegas Strip. At first glance, it might seem like an odd choice. The man who's worked with Scorsese and sat front row at the Oscars leaving for the desert. But it makes sense if you look closer. Wahlberg wasn't chasing solitude, he was building control, a life with fewer distractions and more design, a place where family wasn't something squeezed between film sets and travel, but built into the structure of every day. In Summerlin's exclusive Summit Club community, he found space, not just land, but air, clarity, 2.5 acres of blank slate, and then another plot, just a short drive away, tucked into the same high-end privacy, but with even more intention. There were rumors of a compound, not a fortress this time, but a base, a home, a gym, a studio, a self-contained world where business and family could breathe the same air, where deals could be discussed over breakfast and filming could happen down the hall from the nursery. Wahlberg was building not just for himself, but for the life he wants to live for the next 20 years. It's hard to overstate how much this move reflects his current mindset. He's not post-Hollywood, but he's post-dependence on it. He doesn't need to be 5 minutes from a studio to get a green light. He is the studio now. With streaming platforms craving content and Wahlberg's production companies in full swing, he can call the shots from anywhere. And if anywhere includes being closer to his kids, his faith, his peace, that's the only metric that matters. This isn't downsizing, it's right-sizing. It's trading in optics for ownership. It's a quiet kind of boldness that doesn't need to be announced, only lived. The marble floors and sweeping staircases are gone. In their place, intentional rooms, clean lines, open space and sunlight that pours into every decision. The house he's building isn't for show. It's for staying in, for working in, for being a father in. And in that shift from Hollywood Hills to Nevada's warm stillness, you can see a man who's not letting go of his success, but holding it differently now. With more gratitude, less display. With more privacy, less performance. He hasn't stopped building. He's just started building for the right reasons, for legacy, for life, for love, for love. Chapter 2. Fatherhood in Focus. New baby, teenagers and college goodbyes. The sound of a baby stirring before dawn has a way of softening everything. For Mark Wahlberg in 2025, it's not unfamiliar. The lights of the nursery glow faintly while the rest of the house stays dark. He's already been up for hours, prayer, workout, protein shake, but this is a different kind of discipline, slower, quieter, a bottle warmed, a lullaby hummed under breath. For a man who's known for punching time clocks at 4 a.m., the rhythm of fatherhood has always been his most defining, most grounding routine. And now with a new baby in the house, it all starts over. It's a chapter he didn't expect to be writing again, at least not quite like this. But Mark talks about the new edition with a reverence that goes beyond excitement. It's not just another child, it's a reminder, a fresh heartbeat in a home already full of them. It changes everything again. Not in the way it did when he was a younger man with something to prove. But now it changes the pace. It slows him down in the right places, reminds him that being needed at 2 a.m. might just be the most sacred part of the day. And while he's changing diapers at one end of the hallway, there's another door closing down the other. His eldest daughter, Ella, is away at college. The goodbye happened months ago, but it lingers in subtle ways. A quieter dinner table, fewer footsteps up the stairs, a playlist she left behind still playing through the kitchen speaker. He talks about her with pride, but there's always a pause in his voice. She's growing up, becoming her own person, and Wahlberg's learning how to parent from a distance. Texts, FaceTime calls, the occasional care package with snacks she forgot she loved. Letting go while staying close. That's the dance. In between, the house is alive with the noise of teenagers. Michael and Brendan are older now, navigating the strange in-between space of boyhood and manhood. One is into sports, the other into production. Both are learning what it means to carry the Wahlberg name and not let it define them. Mornings are for workouts and protein smoothies, and sometimes for debates at the breakfast table that end with laughter and a lift session in the gym. The structure is tight, but there's room to breathe, room to explore who they're becoming. Grace, the only daughter still at home full-time, is watching it all unfold with the wisdom of someone much older than her years. She was the baby until recently. Now she's in a new role, part big sister, part best friend, part helper. She reads to the newborn, hovers during nap time, and still sneaks into her dad's office just to sit near him while he works. And Wahlberg, he makes time, because if there's one thing he's learned from raising kids across 2 decades, it's that presence matters more than perfection. His wife, Rhea, is the anchor, steady as ever. Their partnership, refined through years of growth and hard conversations, and Grace is the blueprint the kids watch. There's no performance in it, no brand, just 2 people who've figured out how to do the work at home in faith and in love. They're raising a family, not for Instagram, but for the world, quietly, carefully. This version of fatherhood isn't flashy, it's in the in-between moments. A ride to practice, a quiet talk on the back patio, a college advice session that becomes a memory. Wahlberg doesn't claim to have it all figured out, but what he does have, time, presence, effort, he gives freely. The cameras don't catch most of it, but that's the point. In 2025, this is the real work, not just building a business or choosing the next project, but building people, being the first call, the safe place, the lesson lived, not just taught. Mark Wahlberg has played many roles, but being dad, that's the one that never wraps. Chapter 3, The Billion-Dollar Hustle, Studios, Streams and Smart Deals. If you want to understand how Mark Wahlberg became a quiet force behind Hollywood's shifting economy, you have to stop looking at the screen and start looking at the credits. Producer, executive, founder, investor, the man who once showed up just to act now shows up to lead, to own, to architect entire deals. It's no longer about the role he plays in front of the camera, it's about the ecosystem he's building behind it. The studios, the streams, the products, the machine you don't see until you realize he's been running it all along. Wahlberg's business instincts were never loud, but they've always been sharp. He understood early that fame was fleeting, but ownership was lasting. So he didn't just attach himself to projects, he built vehicles for them. Unrealistic ideas, his production company has evolved into a content engine that moves with the speed of culture. Documentaries, docu-series, brand collaborations, and original scripted content, all backed by strategy and delivered with intention. Wahlberg doesn't pitch shows hoping for attention. He develops stories that fit into something bigger. Stories that stretch across platforms, across products, across industries. Nothing is one-dimensional anymore. Streaming changed the rules, and Wahlberg adapted fast. While many actors were still chasing theatrical releases, he was cutting smart deals with Apple TV+, Netflix, and other global platforms that prioritize reach over red carpets. He understood that the audience had moved, and rather than mourn the shift, he embraced it. Projects like The Family Plan didn't just stream well, they launched with built-in marketing engines tied to his other ventures. The lines blurred, the film wasn't just content, it was fuel for his supplement brand, his fitness model, his lifestyle philosophy. And then there's Las Vegas, the move that made headlines for all the obvious reasons: real estate, taxes, family privacy, but underneath it was something more strategic. Wahlberg didn't just relocate, he repositioned. Nevada became his sandbox for a new kind of creative infrastructure, one where he doesn't have to wait for studio permission or chase incentives across state lines, one where he can film, produce, edit, and distribute under one banner, where the next hit show could be made 10 steps from where his daughter is doing homework. He's quietly pushing for legislation to expand Nevada's film tax credits, not for vanity, for viability. He's building a new production pipeline and bringing others with him. The goal now is sustainability, not just in business, but in life. He's not interested in burning out for one more blockbuster. He's interested in owning the whole process, from concept to content to consumer. He knows the value of IP. He knows what happens when you control your masters, your distribution, your partnerships. He doesn't want a piece of the pie. He wants to bake it himself, and yet there's no ego in it. He still shows up on set, still takes notes, still works harder than anyone around him. But the game has changed. He's no longer hustling to be part of the industry. He's shaping what it becomes. The deals are sharper, the team is tighter, the choices are clearer, and every move is made with long-term return in mind, not just financially, but in freedom. Because that's what the hustle was always about. Not just money, not just power, freedom. To live on his terms, to work at his pace, to create things that matter, and to be home for dinner when it counts. The billion-dollar empire Wahlberg is building isn't just about dominance, it's about balance. He's not trying to beat the system, he's building his own. Quietly, consistently, and one smart deal at a time. Chapter 4, Gym Rat meets Mogul, Fitness as Brand, Identity and Business. It starts before the sun comes up. When the house is still and the baby monitor is quiet, Mark Wahlberg is already on his second sweat. A few hours of sleep, maybe a prayer, and then it's go time. He doesn't need motivation, and he's not looking for attention. The weights don't care if you've been in a blockbuster. The cold plunge doesn't care if you're a producer. And the discipline it takes to show up every morning, no matter what, well, that's the kind of muscle Wahlberg's been building his entire life. For him, fitness was never just about looking good. It was about order, about staying sharp, about having something to return to when everything else got chaotic. And somewhere along the way, that quiet personal routine turned into one of the most consistent and authentic lifestyle brands in the celebrity space. Wahlberg didn't just talk about fitness, he lived it. And in doing so, he built something that lasted longer than a diet trend or a 6-week challenge. He built a business on trust, performance-inspired. His supplement line came out of that exact mindset. Clean ingredients, no fluff, results over hype. It didn't launch with influencers or viral campaigns. It launched with Wahlberg showing up at 4 a.m. to mix his own protein shake and film it. That's the thing with him, you don't get a spokesperson, you get a user. Every product he talks about, he's tested. Every training method he shares, he lives. There's no separation between the brand and the man. Fur 45 was the next move. It wasn't just a gym franchise, it was a scalable model built around community, efficiency and results. Wahlberg invested heavily, not just with money, but with time, sweat and presence. He visited locations, he talked to trainers, he did the workouts. People showed up not just because he was attached to the name, but because they saw him grinding right there with them. It wasn't about being the face of the brand, it was about being its backbone. And now in 2025, the world he's created around fitness has evolved into a larger wellness ecosystem. The Nevada compound isn't just a home, it's a testing ground, a place where training meets recovery, where new product lines are trialed in real time, where routines are refined and filmed for the growing online audience that follows his every move. Wahlberg's workouts are no longer just private rituals, they're blueprints, templates for how to live with intention, structure and consistency. And the people following along, they're not just fans, they're participants. It's more than just supplements and sweat. It's cold plunges, sleep optimization, clean nutrition, and mobility work. It's the conversation around recovery and mental clarity that runs parallel to the hustle. Wahlberg understands that performance isn't just what you do, it's how you recover, how you eat, how you rest, and every part of his business reflects that. It's all connected. It all tells the same story. But maybe what makes it all work is that he never preaches, he just practices. He posts the hard mornings, the failed reps, the tired eyes. He doesn't sell the fantasy, he sells the truth. That it's hard, that it's daily, that it's worth it. And in a world of noise and overnight promises, that kind of honesty is rare and valuable. He's not chasing fads or chasing attention, he's just staying the course. And in doing so, he's turned something personal into something powerful. Not a brand built on performance, but a brand built on presence, on repetition, on showing up, even when no one's clapping. For Wahlberg, fitness is the foundation, and everything else, the business, the influence, the peace, has been built right on top of it. Rep by rep, breath by breath, morning after morning. Chapter 5, Faith, Philanthropy, and the Public Eye. There's something different about the way Mark Wahlberg carries himself these days. It's not louder, and it's not slower. It's steadier. Like a man who has come to understand the weight of his own presence, not just on camera, but in the quiet spaces where reputation doesn't matter and no one's watching. His faith, his sense of service, and his ability to stay grounded in a world obsessed with flash and speed have become the unseen architecture of his life. You don't always see it in the headlines, but it's there. Every morning before the workouts, every night before he closes his eyes, in the way he moves through the world, not looking for attention, but looking for alignment. Wahlberg's faith isn't something he markets, it's something he lives. There's no sermon, no branding effort, just a deep-rooted spiritual rhythm that he protects like oxygen. Every morning, the same quiet ritual, a few minutes of silence, a rosary in his hand, gratitude on his breath. It's not performance, it's maintenance. In the same way he trains his body, he trains his focus, and it always starts with prayer. That inner life bleeds into everything else, his work, his parenting, his business. It's the lens through which he filters the chaos, the compass that keeps him moving in a straight line even when the world pulls in every other direction. But faith for Wahlberg isn't just about discipline, it's about duty. A duty to give back, to create change in spaces where he once needed change himself. He doesn't wear that responsibility with drama, it's just part of his wiring now. His foundation, quietly operating behind the scenes, continues to support underserved youth across the country. It's not about high-profile galas or photo ops. It's school programs, after-hours mentorship, funding for kids who come from places like the ones he came from, places that teach survival instead of success. There's something powerful in how unassuming his philanthropy is. He doesn't announce every check he writes, but when you follow the threads, you start to see it. Wellness programs for veterans, scholarships for students, recovery resources for those trying to rewrite their own story. He's been there, after all. He knows what it feels like to stumble and need a way back. And while he'll never pretend to have all the answers, he shows up, not as a savior, but as a man who believes in second chances. In 2025, Wahlberg's public life is less about appearances and more about alignment. He doesn't need the press in the same way he once did. He doesn't jump at every opportunity or push his name into conversations that don't fit. His presence has become selective, purposeful. You see him at family events, in faith-centered interviews, maybe showing up at a gym opening or quietly visiting a school his foundation supports. It's not calculated, it's curated by principle. If it doesn't serve his values, it doesn't get his time. And yet, he's more visible than ever in the ways that count. To the kids watching how he balances success and fatherhood. To the business owners who see that ethics and ambition can coexist. To the men trying to rebuild their lives, who look to Wahlberg not as a flawless hero, but as proof that discipline, faith and humility can take you farther than ego ever will. For him, this isn't a side of life, it's the center of it. The rest, movies, money, muscle, that's just orbit. And maybe that's what makes it all work. He's not preaching from the top of a mountain. He's walking the path, quietly, early in the morning, when no one's watching. And that walk, more than anything, is what people are starting to see. Not the fame, not the empire, but the reason behind it, the foundation under it, the faith within it. Chapter 6, Legacy Mode. What's next for Mark Wahlberg? Legacy isn't something Mark Wahlberg talks about in sweeping declarations. He doesn't need to. You can see it in the way he moves through his days now, in the projects he chooses, the people he mentors, the space he makes for silence. He's not chasing the next big thing. He's cultivating something slower, something lasting. And in 2025, it's becoming clear that Wahlberg's next chapter isn't about reinvention. It's about refinement, not expansion for the sake of more, but expansion with meaning, with purpose. There was a time when success looked like more roles, more deals, more visibility. Now success looks like freedom, to say no, to stay home, to spend 3 hours in the middle of the day coaching his son or reading a story to the baby while something big quietly cooks on the business side. He still works, he still dreams, but it's different now. The dreams are tied to legacy, not just wealth but wisdom. He's thinking generationally, not just about what he's leaving behind, but about what kind of systems, stories and values his children will inherit. He's been building that quietly in the background, structures that don't rely on him being center stage. The production company isn't just about content anymore, it's a mentorship engine. He's backing creators who have something to say, helping new voices navigate the business with integrity. He's still acting, but the roles are more selective, more rooted in truth. He's not playing characters for image, he's telling stories that reflect something real. Redemption, resilience, faith, grace, that's what matters now. Back in Nevada, his home isn't just a retreat, it's a blueprint, a compound with purpose. It's where business meetings happen without leaving the property, where faith lives next to fitness, where his kids run barefoot between rooms filled with ideas. It's a space that says you don't have to choose between ambition and presence. You can have both if you build it right. It's what he wants others to see, not the success but the structure behind it. He's mentoring more too, quietly, Former athletes, rising entrepreneurs, young men trying to make better choices than he once did. He doesn't talk down, he doesn't preach, he just tells the truth about failure, about growth, about how discipline isn't about punishment, it's about love, about how faith doesn't erase struggle, it gives it shape. These aren't press tour sound bites. These are real moments behind closed doors where his presence matters more than his resume. There's also the idea of legacy through service. Wahlberg hasn't slowed down on philanthropy, he's just made it more direct. He funds scholarships without needing to attach his name. He supports programs for veterans and youth with the kind of attention that doesn't come with a camera crew, because that's the part that stays when the noise dies down. The good you do when no one's keeping score. So what's next? Probably not a big headline, probably not a surprise franchise comeback. What's next is quiet, steady, a few more stories that matter, a few more systems that can run without him, a few more hours spent exactly where they count, with the people who'll remember him, not for what he built, but how he built it. Legacy mode, for Wahlberg, isn't a curtain call, it's a homecoming, a narrowing of focus, not a shrinking of ambition, a life lived fully, not for attention, but for impact. That's what's next. And somehow, that's bigger than anything that came before. And that brings us to the end of this story, not a finale, but a pause in a life that keeps evolving with quiet intensity and purpose. Mark Wahlberg in 2025 isn't about headlines or heat, it's about clarity. A man who's turned the chaos of early fame into a blueprint for steady, meaningful living. A man who has traded red carpets for family dinners, sound stages for studio ownership, and shallow approval for something rooted and real. The new mansion in the desert isn't a symbol of escape, it's a foundation for the next phase. The new baby isn't just a fresh start, it's a reminder that legacy isn't built in interviews or on stages, but in the day-to-day showing up. Every diaper changed, every early morning workout, every hand extended behind the scenes to help someone else rise. Mark Wahlberg isn't reinventing himself, he's refining what's always been there, the faith, the grit, the service, the discipline, and now more than ever, he's leading with those values, not for attention, but for impact. Thank you for coming along on this journey. If you felt inspired, grounded, or just a little more clear about what matters most, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Because sometimes the best stories aren't the loudest, they're the ones built with quiet consistency, one day at a time. Until next time, stay focused, stay grounded, and keep building your own legacy. Building your own legacy.